Soho Theater. Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
I don't know if I'm the only one who cares, but have y'all seen what's happening with Duolingo? Okay, in case you're not familiar, Duolingo is an app where you learn other languages, supposedly. It's basically this app where they gamify learning another language through like quizzes and little mini games, little mini quests and stuff. And I'm not gonna say it doesn't work, but everybody I know that uses Duolingo still speaks English to me. Just throwing that out there. And over time it was getting more expensive, and over time there would be mistakes that were in the games and in the programs, which were kind of, I don't know how you would put it, but basically it was kind of forgivable because you felt like you were getting that real-time help through a person, So then a person would see through comments, oh, this is messed up. Oh, let me fix it. It actually should have been like this. And you were really getting like a sort of language learning community going under Duolingo, which is the point, you would think, to learn a new language, to talk to more people. It'd be kind of weird to learn a language just to be like, I did it. And no one will ever know. I'm just gonna go to whole countries, know what they saying, and not tell anybody. I have the power. I only think like a psychopath would do that. Like I've seen those viral videos of people being like in Japan, and no one thinks that this black person in Japan speaks Japanese, so then they like are recording themselves or they're streaming, and then someone says something about them, and then they're like, boom, I know Japanese. And the person's like, what? How? You don't look like it. That actually would have been a fire ad for Duolingo back in the day. It's just like, have you like eating at like a fast food spot, everyone around you roasting you, everybody getting one in, like, and the back of his head, look at it, look, I can see right through it. Does he even know he got that bald spot? The bald spot fighting for his life is shiny. It's like a flashlight. And then you bounce back, you're like, I know French. What? I'm so embarrassed. I was being rude in undercover. Duolingo. But no, that's not what happened. People were slowly learning these languages over time. And learning is like a hard, it's a hard way to describe it, because it's not as if the language was fully being taught. It's not like the same thing as sitting in a class being taught the tenses, being taught the situations to say certain things versus other things. It's more just like, did you spell we right? That's a little French. Have some of that. And so over time, you see Duolingo also get this internet presence that's like, their socials team is very like in vogue. They get in there, they're funny in the comments, spicy comments too. Sometimes they got a quick jab back whenever somebody tries to trash Duolingo. And I don't know how I feel about it. If I'm being honest, it's like through our tax systems and through the economy, we already treat these companies like people. I don't know if I want to pretend that they're also interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like when I see a Twitter handle for a company, I don't want to be like, oh, they're so moody today. I can't believe Microsoft's so angry. Because it's not like it's not an individual, it's a company. And there are individuals making that company feel like your friend, but they're not your friend. They're not your friend at all. And then they do this move, which is wildly unpopular, where they release a statement where they say, we're going to be an AI first company, which is a interesting title to give yourself. You could have said customer first. You could have said teacher first. And you could have not said anything. Because people were already noticing. They were like, I think there's like less people working there now. I feel like some of my answers don't get answered in the right way. Some of the lessons even feel a bit like Chat GPT-ish, you know? And then they came out and said it. They're like, look, we're going to use AI and you're going to learn just the same as you've been learning. And I had friends who were like, I'm not learning anything already. And honestly, what's the fun of using Duolingo if you could just use any sort of like open AI, any sort of AI program to make your own learning course? If it's AI, then what's special about it? And so you see people, big backlash. Every time they even tweet, post anything, people are like, was this written by AI? You know? And it gets to the point where I don't really know if they were hacked or not, or if that's just like part of the marketing scheme, but basically they took down everything. Because they were getting trashed. Because, you know, they want to be expensive. They want to hire less people. They want to essentially disregard, disrespect, or just get rid altogether of their teachers and have you pay, I think, $20 a month to not learn French. And so people were rightfully upset. And so they take everything down, and then they post it again, and they post it as the is it a frog? I mean, I think it's a bird. It's an owl? So they posted with a guy in a owl costume. And that guy was using like the deep, distorted voice, talking about how the elites ruin Duolingo. And I was like, yeah, but aren't you... What's happening? And then I think it was the CEO that even came out, and instead of giving some sort of statement that basically says, hey, look, yes, we're going to be using AI, but we're still going to have our teachers, and our teachers are going to just use AI for some of the menial tasks, but you'll still be talking to a teacher. Instead of reassuring the customers at all, he kind of just doubled down and was like, look, the AI going to be better than teachers anyway. That people got really mad. And I think what's happening here is what's happening all the time. Teaching is hard. Teaching is very difficult. And if you love something and you love it enough to teach it, that to me is amazing. I don't know if I know anything well enough to teach it. And I don't know if I have the patience to convey those ideas in an efficient enough way that you know what I know when I'm done talking. That's scary. I would never try to teach. I don't know, even things that I'll admit right now, even things that I'm pretty sure about, I don't know enough about to teach. I believe in climate change, but if you asked me about climate change when I got done talking about climate change, you wouldn't believe in climate change. When I got done talking, you'd be like, everything he said sound made up. Because teaching is very, very difficult, and we forget from every perspective teaching is difficult. It's difficult in and of itself alone to be in your head, have the idea, convey the idea in a way that gets through someone else's head. You gotta get past all the video games and all the crushes and all the, just to be like, math! That's already hard enough. Never mind the fact that like kids are difficult. I'm not just talking about like junior high or all of them. I remember being difficult as a kid. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I wanted to learn the thing. It was not getting in. I was fighting it. I didn't even know it. Sometimes I'd even be a little pompous, you know? Like I'll admit it, as a little kid, give me some grace. As a child, I was a flat earther. When I was little, I was a flat earther because, my teacher tried to teach me about the globe and all the countries around the globe and stuff like that and how the earth was round. I was like, Just gonna throw this out there for you. feels pretty flat to me. I know I haven't been all over the world, but never been, sideways. So I think it's pretty flat. Sorry to embarrass you while you're talking to the whole class, but... And then my teacher very graciously was like, oh, yeah, this is sadly a common misconception. It's not actually flat. The earth is round. I'm like, oh, huh. Not to contradict you, ma'am, but if the earth is round, why are all the maps flat? Truly, as an 8-year-old, I thought I had a mic drop moment. I was like, I rest my case. That's up there with you. You the one projected that thing. So, maybe I should have the chalk. I'm just saying. And then my teacher pulled out a globe. Because it's difficult. And look, I'm not a parent. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a parent the same way I can't imagine what it's like to be a teacher. But I see some of the friction that parents have with teachers sometimes, whether they think that they could do it better or that they think it must not be their kid, it must be the teacher. And I thought that all would have been settled through COVID. You remember that time where everybody was alone with their kids? To see how well they sort of grasped everything? I don't think enough teachers got an apology. I feel like 2021, you should show up to your kid's school and be like, I didn't know he just wouldn't take the words in. Like, I really thought it was you this entire time, but nah, he hates science. That's his kryptonite. It's also hard because I think the way that we look at teaching is as the obstacle as opposed to as the help, right? Like even now, if someone tries to teach you something, there's some reluctance there sometimes. What it used to be, you're a kid and these adults, they don't know what they're talking about and try to teach me something. And then you become an adult and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? We're the same age. And then you get older, and then someone younger than you has something to say, and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? You don't even know about the world, right? So I think that a lot of people, myself included, sometimes have a reluctance to learning in general, especially because there's a sort of like hubris around getting an idea. When you get an idea, you feel like you got it. I snatch that, It's like when people say that they're self-taught, but then they tell you how they taught themselves. No, I went to my friend's house. He built a whole deck. And I was like, that's incredible. I didn't know you did construction. He's like, I don't. I was like, how'd you build a deck? He's like, self-taught. And I was like, how did you teach yourself to build a deck? And he's like, I just watched this guy on YouTube for like 75 hours or whatever. I had to watch some of the videos over and over again because I was scared I was going to mess up my cuts and everything. But then I got it, yeah. Then he taught you. That's not self-taught at all. 75 hours of listening to some other dude talk, he might as well have been here. Because there's a deep respect that I have for teachers because they cared about something so much that they were willing to learn more about it than they ever probably had to, just to teach it to someone else, to share the thing that they love. My math teacher loved math so much that she went to more school for math, and then she came back, got a teaching degree, and then came back and taught a lower math than she understands. She has to dumb down math every day just to bring it to me, and just to try to give me some math. She went through all that, and I don't know how we did it. It's kind of incredible that all over the world, we somehow managed to not pay teachers enough and not give them enough, like in every country, no matter where you go. And so I bring it up because I think that I'm not a teacher, but I think the thing that teachers fall in love with is like that light bulb. Watching someone get something that you understand, that you're giving to them, and then it clicks. And they're like, oh, whether they're a little kid, little bitty kid. I remember a teacher at school is who really taught me how to tie my shoes. Like really put it together for me in my head. Obviously, my grandma tied my shoes and would show me how to do it while she was doing it. My mom would tie my shoes. My dad would tie my shoes. But she was the one that was like, no, we're going to practice. I'm just going to tie it. We're going to practice. And so then she tied it because I ran up to her after recess. I had been falling, right? I've been tripping hard. I was doing that, you know that Looney Tunes drag where your legs go up? Because I was getting a good start and then I'd step on a lace and I'd go, whoa! And so, ran up to her. I was like, hey, can you help me tie my shoes? Just both, laces couldn't be further from my feet. Just, can you help me tie my shoes? And she was like, sure. And then she tied both my shoes for me. And then just like that, she pulled the string and untied them both. And I was like, oh. I'd never been betrayed before. It's like, oh, why would you? Oh, what's wrong with you? And she was like, no, I've tied your shoes a couple days in a row. And I'm not going to tie them anymore. We're going to tie them together. And so for the rest of recess, sat down, tied my shoes over and over again until the last time I tied them and I didn't even notice it. And then for the rest of the time I was in elementary school, every time she saw me and she saw me, shoes tied, she saw that light bulb go off. Oh. And no matter how reluctant someone is to be taught, it's a beautiful thing when that happens. When the idea gets through and you can see it. You see the light bulb go off. Oh, it's round. Who would have thought? Well, and so I don't know what it's like. I see this move in Duolingo towards AI, and that move towards AI is not to give you, the consumer, a better product. It's not to help the actual teachers who are passionate about people learning other languages so they can make new friends or have new experiences or just open their minds up to how big the world really is. When you understand language and you understand how many different ways there are to say something specifically and how few ways there are to say something very unique, you have an appreciation for communication, right? And that's not what Duolingo is looking to do. They would like to make more money. And it's a business, so to be fair, more money would be nice. That's what you're supposed to do at business. No one shows up to business like, did you make any friends? But that is why they're making that move towards AI. And I see that thing happening in places that do make me worry. Like, I don't know much about the UK school system or anything. I don't know if it's good or bad or how y'all feel about it. I just know the stories that I've been seeing where there are some schools that are looking to introduce and implement AI teachers, like AI taking over the classroom. And I don't know, that really worries me because I think that you need a teacher, you need a person to watch you get it. That's part of the human experience. To watch you get it is great. Being in a classroom that's led by AI has to be like being in a driverless car. And you get in, and they tell you it's safe. They tell you it'll get you where you're going, but you get in, and, you know, maybe they programmed it to make sure it makes the light, but not to speed, you know. But you're in the back seat for some reason. I mean, I guess there's no wheel, so might as well. And you're just looking out the windshield the whole time like, okay, they say this is how you get there, but I've never gone this way before. And now you're just sitting there like, oh, I think you missed the left. Oh. Really nobody to talk to in here, so sort of talking to myself. Oh, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus. Because one thing about being here that that I cannot stress enough, the way y'all's buses move. is wildly different than what I'm used to. If I'm being honest, I don't know how you train your bus drivers. Or what happens when a bus driver hits a person, but it looks like they're trying to find out every turn. I was crossing the street to come here, and the bus driver cut the wheel so hard in front of me and looked at me the entire time. But you're in this driverless car, and it says it's going to get you where you're going. And so maybe you should trust it. Who knows? But sometimes prefer a person, you know? I know that we don't necessarily treat everything this way. Like, the best example I can give is when it comes to school and how kids are using ChatGPT and other AI to do their homework for them or do the lesson for them and turn it in. The big fear there is that they will not know how to think to a conclusion, right? Like if we're being honest, and this isn't to disparage what anyone teaches or how they teach it, but a lot of the actual lessons you learn in school don't matter as much as you taking the steps to get to the end product, right? Like it isn't imperative that you read Mark Twain. But it is good that you read something that is not how the people that you know talk, and it's not from a time that you live in, and it opens up your mind to that the world might be different, you know? And the fear is that if kids use this thing too much, if it's completely abused, that you'll essentially graduate someone who is illiterate and not able to think critically about anything. And they'll be a doctor. And I get that. I get that fear. But you also have to look at it from the perspective of those kids, because they're essentially being told that, look, we try to teach you well so that you can go out into the world and be productive and maybe get a good job. But as far as good jobs, we're like done with those. So you're not going to get one that's going to go to AI. But don't use the AI to cheat. You got to read the whole book slow so we could be impressed by how the AI reads it fast. And so I understand how a lot of kids feel like they don't have stake in the type of future that the work that they're expected to do would link them up with, you know? Like there's this idea that if you do everything right, you'll reap the rewards, but we're already telling you the rewards won't be there by the time you get done. And so I see things like them bringing AI into these UK schools and paying for these programs. You have to ask yourself, is this really coming out of the kindness of someone's heart? Or is this to make money? Is there a company that will make money? And surely there is. Because the programs range in prices. There's one program, though, that is being implemented in school. I think, I could be wrong about the exact number, but I'm pretty sure that the amount that the program is going to cost the school is like £27,000, which I'm not saying is the best salary in the world, but you could pay that to a person, you know? And it just freaks me out because I only know what it's like in the American school system, which is scary enough. And not just because of the shootings. It's also... it's not because the I'm saying the American school system is already difficult enough because you have underpaid and overworked teachers that have to take extra jobs and just fight for their lives and then still spend their own money to get supplies for kids to do the work that they're expected to do, right? Just to like stay even slightly above water. So how can you not expect this kid who's already been given less resources than kids in other districts and kids who, you know, by some accident happen to go to a great school or happen to be in a place with money, how can you not expect them to use ChatGPT to get them to close the gap? And how can you not expect these teachers to be like, I already drive Uber, deliver pizza, and teach geography. I don't know if I can try to find the AI. You know? Because you can get really far without knowing. Actually, that's one thing I think about all the time. I don't know if your schools are good or not, but I also don't know if it matters, at least to Americans, because if you come over to the U.S. with your accent, we'll believe you. Like, people in the U.S. fall for the British accent so hard, it's kind of unfair that we were ever number one. Like even a lot of the conspiracy theories that we believe in the U.S. did kind of come from a British guy who just talks smooth. You know, like he comes over after y'all kicked him out for being too wild, and then he's like, you know, there's lizards in all the people. And we're like, when he says it, it makes sense. You know, y'all have some phenomenal exports. But you do have some rough ones. You know? Like, why'd y'all do, like that, sending Piers Morgan to us. It almost constitutes an act of war. I don't know who else you could have sent that Boris Johnson wouldn't have been as destructive as Piers Morgan on our TV all the time. That was, what did we ever do to you? I'd like to think that the UK holds like centuries-long grudges. And I'm like, okay, all right, y'all think you cute. You think you cute, you gonna leave me. Just wait. Wait like 200 years. I'm gonna send the most annoying man that's ever lived to be on 3 of your news stations every day. No? Because it's difficult. I mean, you can get really far without knowing much. That's scary. And that's even before AI. Ask Piers Morgan. You can get so far without knowing anything. In fact, there was a teacher in the US. This blew my mind. This teacher, and look, I'd have to look it up again, but I was throwing it out there. British man. It just sort of backs up my point. This dude taught in the US for 8 years and he couldn't read. He couldn't read. Imagine somebody failing you who can't read. Imagine you turning your paper and they're like, I don't even know what this says, but it looked wrong. Like, this look like garbage. Nah, this dude really figured it out. This is one of those stories that kind of went semi-viral before virality was like well established. So before YouTube and like things could pop off on Twitter, Facebook, or anything, this dude got his maybe his master's or something, and started teaching. And I think he was teaching like middle school, and taught middle school for like 8 years. Could never read, but what he would do was he was very good at picking out personalities. This was his talent. This was his thing that he had used his entire life. He could read people. He couldn't read words, but he knew. He knew people so perfectly, he could laser into them, and he knew so much about you just by looking at you. And one of the things he would do every year, every semester, he would lock in on like 2 or 3 of the smartest kids in class. Just naturally smart, just genuinely gifted. And he would have them, you know, read a paragraph or 2 to the class starting the lesson. And then he would basically, watching over them, kind of get the smart kids to teach all the other kids. And it was astounding. That's wild. I'm sure that's what they think the AI will do. I'm sure that's what this dude would lock in, and he'd just see, okay. He'd be like, today, can you read page 11? Can you read page 12? Can you read page 13? And we'll all just take notes in our books as we go. right? As the kids would be taking notes, as the other kids were reading and everything. And one of the things that he said in his defense, he's like, show me where the kids that I taught aren't proficient in what I was teaching. You know, my methods work. And it's fitting that he was teaching middle school too, because middle schoolers are some bullies. A middle schooler is the only one with the real audacity to be like, I don't think he can read. That would never happen in higher education. Like, if you're getting your master's and your professor can't read, you would second guess yourself. You'd be like, no, I must be missing something. He must just be like so locked in that he never looks at the book. No, only a middle schooler would be like, I bet you he can't read, dog. Because a middle schooler will blackmail you too. A middle schooler would be like, hey, look, it's A's for me and my boys the rest of the year. Or we telling everybody you can't read. That's A, as in the first letter. That's A as in the first letter that you can't read, because you can't read, okay? If I even see a closed A that look like a B, I'm telling everybody. Imagine that. Imagine getting caught. Imagine principal, vice principal got to pull you into the office. You sitting down, you know, because the kids loved him. He never gave homework. You sitting down, what's going on, y'all? How's everything going? We need to talk to you about something that's a bit troubling. We are hearing, it's honestly hard to even say this out loud. I feel so embarrassed even bringing it up, but there have been some accusations by some students and maybe a few parents as well that you ooh. Because you gotta think about it. If you're wrong, you look so crazy as the principal. If you're wrong, you look like you believe everything you've ever been told in your life. If you're a principal that drags a teacher into a room to be like, can you read? Like, you hired me. Like, can I read? Principal sitting him down. Okay, look, so there have been some concerns and some accusations by some students and some parents that your literacy is not in the room with us. You know, and I don't know if they would have the teacher in there by himself or they'd have the kid that accused him of not being able to read because he didn't get the A he wanted. Maybe he's sitting there. Teacher, this is preposterous. You know, words you say when you don't know how to spell it. This is preposterous. Me not be able to read. What? How dare you? How absolutely dare you? Kid sitting there. Make him read something. Make him read something. He gonna do it anyway if he can do it. They try to get him to sign his resignation letters. They're like, can you read it? I'm not even gonna dignify that with a response. Kid sitting there, that means no. No? And that's my fear. That's my big fear is that you let the system start. It only benefits companies, and before you know it, it's an entire generation, an entire country of people who aren't proficient in thinking skills. They can't think critically. They're not truly literate. And never mind not just reading for fun. They do not really grasp how important reading is because You can either cheat the AI or the AI has the best interests of the company in mind. Because that's another thing that was happening with Duolingo. It's just all these ads started popping up, ads for companies, because they're a company that's trying to make money, you know? And so what if that happens? What if you implement so much AI into all of these schools and it goes left? How fast can you train an entire generation of teachers that were burned out and underpaid and overwhelmed to begin with? You know? That means that you could have an entire generation of UK teachers coming to the US not knowing how to read and teaching our kids not to read. Could be a disaster. Never underestimate the power and the impact that a teacher can have on your life. I remember a teacher sat me down and told me something I didn't even know about myself. This teacher sat me down and told me, you got a lot of nervous energy. Like and I was like in middle school where you can't even be polite. You just got to get right to the point. Like they just sat me down. You got a lot of nervous energy. All right. You ever thought of drawing? Just channel it somehow. Right. I was like, oh no, I never thought to draw. I love anime. Yeah, maybe I'll draw. And I drew something and you know, my teacher was like, draw something, bring it to me. You know, I'd like to see what you draw. And so I did. And when I showed my teacher my drawing, they were like, we're going to find something else. For you to do with your energy. All right.
Mira.